Welcome to the Fire Away Podcast. That is the Fire Away Podcast. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
Welcome back to another episode of Fire Away Podcast. I'm your host, Fred Anders, here with the one and only Mr. Mark Meyer. Mark, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm great. What's going on, Fred?
Not too much, my man. Not too much. Another episode of Fire Away Podcast. We're going to fire away on. Please tell the listeners where they can catch us.
That's right. You can find us on Spotify now. Check us out on Spotify, always on Apple Podcasts, and on Instagram at fire_away podcast on Instagram. Fire_away podcast on Instagram. Spotify's new.
Spotify, yep.
We're working on getting all of our past the backlogged episodes up on Spotify. It's a little bit of a process. With permissions, since we got everything on Apple was pretty easy, but we're going to get it up there. Right now you can find the most recents. I think we got 3 episodes up on Spotify, 16 episodes up on Apple. We appreciate everybody for listening and checking in every other week when we put this out.
So we're just talking before we jumped on here, and you brought to my attention, we've been doing this now for 7 months. So Fire Away Podcast has been up and running now for 7 months.
Yeah, July of 2023, we recorded our first episode with Anna Gavin.
Yes.
Who, coincidentally enough, is going to be our guest host today.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so Anna is going to come in and take the mic. We're going to kind of sit back and watch, and Anna is going to be shining our employee spotlight today
on a wonderful, wonderful lady who's been here for 45 years.
45
I think we just
years,
celebrated. Has been here through every one of the owners. Spent a good deal of her time with Mr. Steve Waters, so I can't wait to hear about that. To be the one and only Miss Cindy Rueppel.
That's right. So Anna's going to come in. She's going to jump on the mic, and Cindy's going to sit down, and they're going to talk a little bit. And we're going to get to hear about Cindy in the past 45 years here at Fireline, and that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear all the stories. I was able to sit down with her a little bit when we first started getting this put together for her podcast, and got to go through some of the stories with her in preparation of this before Anna is going to be the guest host, and I can't wait to hear some of these stories.
I know how this next statement's about to sound.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I know how it's going to sound, but Anna is fantastic on the mic.
Oh my goodness!
She can't have it back. It's our baby, right?
Yeah.
No, Anna, you cannot be a full-time host, but she really does. So when she wanted to sit down and interview Cindy, I had no one better. She's a natural on there. And I've seen in the past, and you've seen as well with some of the people that you've interviewed on here, sometimes it's a little hard to get the information out of them, right? We can stand outside this door and talk all day long, but when they get the headphones and the mic on, people tend to freeze up. So it takes some getting used to, whether you're hosting or being interviewed, and it just seems to come natural. So,
well, knowing Anna like we do, there's no doubt in my mind she's not 100% prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. So listen, I know how that sounds, but it's the truth. She's really good at this, and
for sure.
She's got the voice. She's got it all down. So, and she'll come prepared. So, I'm super excited for it.
It is raise time, by the way, everybody.
Oh yeah. Hey Anna, can I add podcast host to my resume here at Fireline?
Absolutely.
Been doing this now for 10 years. I introduce myself that way: fire extinguisher trainer, podcast host, manager.
Well, you have to, right? I mean, you have to acknowledge your accomplishments for sure.
That's right.
But no, without further ado, they're coming into the room now, and we will turn these mics over to the lovely ladies of Fireline.
All right, Fred. Thanks, man.
Hi, buddy.
Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you.
You're excited to be here. I know you couldn't wait to get on the microphone. Nothing Cindy loves more than a microphone.
Not my thing.
No, but you are here, and you're here with a smile, and that's what matters. So listening to all these podcasts, you heard the kind of formula that we use a lot is the ultimate goal of these podcasts is to get to know the person that we're interviewing. So
right.
Starting at the beginning, Cindy Rueppel, where were you born?
Baltimore City.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Baltimore City with my parents, and then when I got married, John and I bought a house 4 doors down from them.
So you were super close to home.
I was super close to home. I lived there for 30 years.
Now, when you were growing up, and I know this story already, so when you were growing up with your mom, now you've got siblings, right? So you've got
two brothers.
So how many people were in your house?
It was 8 of us. My mom and dad and me. and my brother Steve, my older brother Jack, which you know,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife and baby, and my grandmother.
And how many rooms were in the house?
2-bedroom, 1 bath.
2-bedroom, 1 bath, 8
And
people, and one of them was
yes,
a baby.
Yes. Well, I was really only 3 years old, so I was a baby too.
Yeah, and you were pretty much a little
Yeah,
one
I
too.
was, yes.
Because how much older are your brothers than you?
Jack is 15 years older than me, and Steve is 9.
Yeah,
I was the
you were
surprise
super
package.
baby.
Yes.
You were the, hey, that's not what we expected.
Yep.
So it was a little crowded in the household.
Yes.
And you were in the city. No, you were in the city just down on Route 1, right? Like it was.
Yeah, Morrill Park.
Yeah, and it's not far from here, right?
No, it's where they just had that murder of that poor little 6-year-old.
Oh,
I lived right across the street from that. That's sad.
and I remember you were telling me when they
Yeah.
were starting to, because Cindy's parents passed away a few years ago, and when that happened, you were in the process of selling the house.
Yeah.
Because they had that house. Your
They
whole
lived
life,
there. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right? Like
We
from-
just sold it this year.
It was only this year that it finally sold.
Yep.
So when you guys were selling it, I remember you were like, "It is just a very different neighborhood
Oh,
than
yes.
it was when it was."
It was a nice neighborhood to grow up in.
So it was like running around on the streets.
Oh, yeah. You could do anything, and you didn't have to worry about,
The
drugs
cars
or car. I mean, it was a great neighborhood.
Aw,
My best friend lived right next door. We played on the porch. We played Barbies. We did everything together.
aw.
So it
What was your fun? Kind of like, do you have like a favorite memory from that time of your life?
just my childhood.
Yeah.
Probably my parents rented a shore home on the Magathie. And we used to go down there because my dad was a Baltimore City fireman, so he had off a lot. So we would go weekends down there or even in the middle of the week because my mom didn't work. And I would take my girlfriend, my brothers would come down, and we would have a really good time
It
down
was a
there.
good time. So those are good. Those are good memories. I know you said when you were growing up, you were going to school in the area,
Yes.
but then at a certain point in time, you transitioned to private school. Why did that happen?
Okay, I went to Morrill Park Elementary, and then I went to Rockland Middle, and we had race riots. And when that happened, my mother said, I'm going to get a job, take her out of the city schools, and put her in private school.
Wow.
So my mom went and got a job and to pay for my tuition. And then I went to Archbishop Keogh, which was a Catholic school in Baltimore City.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's crazy. So for those of people who listen to Reggie's podcast, we were talking before this got started that, he had similar kind of childhood
Right.
and situations going on, which, for so many of us, that seems like something we read about in the history books. It's not
Yeah.
something that we hear today. And when you said that, I was like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
That was happening. So she went and stopped being a stay-at-home mom and
Yep.
went and got a job just so you could go to school.
Yep.
And at that point, your brothers were older. I'm
They were
assuming.
older, yep.
And they were kind of independent on their own at that point.
Yep,
or
Jack was
mostly.
married. He was out. My brother Steve was married then too.
Yeah. You really were the baby.
Yeah.
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 So then went to Catholic school.
Yep.
That was an experience.
Catholic high school.
What did you like about going to that school?
It was it was all girls, which was different. So we had a ball. We had fun, and it was just education was good. The discipline was there.
Yes.
Definitely.
Was it the stereotypical like Catholic nuns teaching you and like slapping your hands with rulers or anything?
No, my husband got slapped with rulers because
Oh,
he
he
went to elementary Catholic school, so he was used to that. But I didn't see any of that.
No.
And I guess you heard about Keogh with the Keepers.
No.
The movie The Keepers.
Oh, the movie
with
The Keepers. Yes, that was fascinating.
Yes.
What was that on Netflix?
Yes, I believe
So
it was.
for anybody who didn't hear about that, it was on Netflix. Was it somebody
a priest
a priest who
abusing girls.
Yeah, and it was happening at Keto, but it
Yes.
was that during the time you were there?
No, it was before I was there.
Okay. And then there was a body found
As a nun, yeah.
it was a nun that I think was going to like whistleblow
Yeah.
on him, I guess.
Yeah.
And the body, this is fun. We're getting a little
The
dark
body
here.
was found back here.
Right here, right behind
Yes.
Fireline. So it was the year before Papa built Fireline, right? It was 62 or 63.
Yeah, when did they come here? 65, 66?
Oh, maybe it was 64 because I think we were here 66.
Yeah.
So it was like, I remember it being almost a year, not long before Fireline was built, right behind the warehouse where the
Right.
train tracks are. That's where
Right.
the body was found. For
Yeah.
any of you who like the true crime podcast,
Yeah.
we're totally getting into that vibe right now.
Yeah.
So that was an actual like scandal that happened. At
Right.
yeah,
But it was before I was there.
that's
I
good to
mean,
know. hope it
I
wasn't
didn't
there.
see anything, and I had a great time, had a great education.
Is that school still around?
Well, it turned into Seton Keogh,
Right.
and then they closed.
Oh,
So they tore it down.
that's too bad.
Yeah.
But I do remember that I was watching The Keepers on Netflix. I forgot that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And it's a good show.
It
It is
is.
a real. I highly recommend
It's-
it. That
it's-
was fascinating.
Very sad.
Yeah, but also fascinating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yes.
it was.
So nothing crazy at school.
No.
And then you go on, and so so not long after school, you find yourself at Fireline. So what was that kind of time between finishing school and Fireline? What happened there?
Okay. Well, I graduated in 78. In my final year of school, I was in the work study program, and I was a legal secretary at the public defender's office. And I was thinking of becoming a courtroom stenographer. I thought about that, and I had taken the test for NSA. So I was working downtown, and my brother Jack, he worked with Fireline. And he said, there's a company I deal with. They're looking for a secretary, he said, and they seem like a really good family-oriented business. He said, I hate you going downtown to work. So I was like, well, so I called, and I came in, and Helen Dunn interviewed me, and I get home, and about an hour, I got a phone call, and she said, you got the job if you want it. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. So I said, okay. So I quit my job downtown, and I came here, and then it was interesting. I started working with your dad right away, typing purchase orders, and I did basic secretarial duties, typing, filing. We typed all we called them annual automatic service tickets.
AAS,
AAS
which
tickets.
we still use to this day. We use that term.
I can't. I won't. I will never forget that. We used to type hundreds of tickets a month. That's what we did in our spare time. We answered phones. Everything was done by hand.
Manually, yeah.
We
So when you came in, it was just typewriters,
Yep.
and they also had those like giant adding machines too, right?
Yes, we did not. Your grandfather was the only person that had a calculator. The rest of us had adding machines, and you used to have to hold two keys to do percentages. It was crazy.
And you had to like move it a certain way, didn't you? Or like it was just a giant. Was it like
it wasn't one of those that you pulled
okay.
It was just a giant big adding machine, and we did have electric typewriters, and I took shorthand. I mean, that's why she hired me, so I could take shorthand, and I came from Catholic school.
That
And
was
she
your
said,
credentials.
Yeah,
She said yes.
and they knew my brother.
All right, and then that's the shoe-in back then.
Yep.
And so, for those of you who don't know, Helen Dunn, who hired Cindy, that she's talking about, Helen worked for us for how long? She was a long time.
Oh yeah, since Fireline, your
I think it was-
grandfather hired her because they worked in the same. Fireline was with another company down wherever they were
In the same building.
in the same
yeah.
building, and he brought Helen with him when.
Yeah, so she was here from the
Yeah,
beginning, from
she was.
47. And then she
She
ended
did
up
everything
working,
for him.
and she worked for us until, I want to say the 80s?
I think like 1981.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a long time. But she was also slightly terrifying.
Oh yeah, a lot of people were afraid of her. She was good though. She was a nice woman.
She was. She was a hard worker, but she
Very
was,
hard
she had
worker.
very high expectations
She
for
was
everyone.
Dedicated to your grandfather for sure.
Oh, yeah. Very loyal to him.
Yes, very loyal.
And she
Yeah.
brought in Cindy, who she loved.
Yes, she was a good lady. She really was.
It was really the office at that time. So these are early Fireline days. Everything's being done by hand. There are definitely no computers.
No no faxes.
The speed. That's right. I remember. So Cindy told me, I think when I started here, one of the things you told me was, or maybe it was my father, the biggest change to business was the fax machine. It wasn't.
Your father told you
It
that.
was my father.
Yes.
It wasn't the
always said that.
computers. It was the fax machine
Mhm.
because the rate of speed that people wanted to get information suddenly became exponentially faster.
Yes.
From typing, mailing a letter, waiting for it to be received, typing a letter back, having it come back. And the fax machine changed a lot of that. When did the fax
It
machine
did.
come by? Was it a couple of years after you
It
started?
was in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't
feel like I
remember
should know
which
that.
year. I think it's in the 80s.
So you're doing a lot of stuff. Helen was, how many people were in the office around that time?
It's 4 ladies.
4 ladies. And Papa would call them the ladies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The
Yes, he
ladies up
did.
front. Was it usually, did you find, I think a big thing with Fireline is that we have a lot of like long tenured people who've been here a long time. And that's changing as generations have changed for sure.
Right.
But back then, was it the same 4 ladies all the time for a long time? Did you have, I'm guessing Betty Thomas must have
It
been in
was
there.
Betty, Helen, Joanne,
Joanne. And you.
Joanne, Taryn,
all,
and me.
All 4 of you guys were here a long time.
Yes. And then we hired Sharon Rose.
Oh my
When
gosh.
Helen left, we hired Sharon Rose.
Okay, so of those 5 people you just listed, all of them worked here at least no less than 25 years.
Right.
Each of them. Because these are people from my childhood.
yeah.
This is why I know them.
Oh,
So when I first started in 2001, Betty was still here.
Mm-hmm.
Joanne had just retired the year before.
Right.
And Sharon Rose retired during my time.
Mhm.
So a lot of, 25 at least, if not 30 or 35
Yeah.
years, all of that team. So loyalty was a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Big thing around here.
Definitely.
Early days, you mostly worked with my dad right out of the gate. You were kind of his number 2.
I did his purchase orders. And then as he moved up, he moved me with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he became president, he started doing payroll and insurance. And then he taught me all that when he became president of NAFED. I believe it's.
Yeah, it was right after I think it was 1984 when he became
Yes.
president of NAFED.
And then he taught me payroll. And he taught me payroll. Then I took over all the HR benefits, administration. I did shipping. I shipped our chemicals that we used to have here.
Really?
Chemicals and extinguishers. Yeah.
Were you actually out there like putting things in boxes, or was it more the
No,
paperwork?
all the paperwork.
Yeah.
All the truckers used to come in and try to woo me and take me to lunch, and you know,
Cindy was the hot ticket
yeah,
back
you know,
then.
to get their business, their trucking business.
Wow. So
We didn't do that for that long. I don't. Then I think it went back to the warehouse.
Yeah.
because I just didn't have time to do it anymore.
Well, payroll would continually get
Yes.
more and more as we kind of grew. That's a good question. Like, do you remember roughly how many employees there were when you started?
About 35.
35. And so payroll for 35 is very different than payroll for 250 now.
Oh yeah.
But
Did it all by hand on these gigantic spreadsheets that we called in ADP.
wow. And then when I came in in 2001. You were still the main HR lady in
Yes.
2001. And
I started whenever, like in '84, I guess, through.
and that was your
That was
primary
my
function for a
primary-
lot of the
yeah.
years, and helping my dad.
Yes.
and being his kind of
At the end, yeah,
towards the
more
end,
towards
a lot,
the end.
a lot more.
yeah.
So you were doing HR and everything like that. So anything kind of notable? I mean, I guess you get through the 80s and the 90s. The big thing in the 90s was the 50-year anniversary.
Right.
And were you a big part of that kind of celebration?
Yeah, I was. Yep.
And so
That
we were
was-
in the buildings. Here's the big thing. Poor Cindy. We're in the building in Building 1 in Baltimore, and it was it has had many facelifts over the years, and we did a
yeah.
big facelift. I remember in 96, I guess it was, because it was right before the
Right for the anniversary.
anniversary, and Cindy, who's never had a window of her own, somehow managed in that renovation to also get an interior office where her only view of a window was through the door of my dad's office. There might have been like a sliver of natural light coming through.
No.
And I remember we have a picture, because you were in that office for a long time.
Oh
We
yeah.
had a picture of that had been taken, I guess, during construction, of sitting at your desk, of a picture that's viewing the view as if you're sitting at the desk looking out through the door, through my dad's door, and you could see my dad at his desk, because that was kind of your view. It was
Right.
it was a narrow hallway. At the end of the hallway, and all you had was the view of my dad.
Yes, because he would
And-
yell things back and forth to me. You know.
And I did the same when I
Yeah,
took over
right.
his office.
Yeah.
And we took that picture, and we have that picture framed in your office
That's-
currently.
That's one of my favorite photos.
Yeah. And that was, when he passed, that was like one of the little
Yeah.
gems that we found, because
Yes.
it was a very true representation of what life was like sitting at that desk
Yeah.
all the time, and you guys worked so closely together.
Yes, we did. I was his office wife.
You were his office wife. That's what
Yeah.
we always said.
Yeah.
And not in a weird way, in a very
Yes,
loving way.
yes.
In a very loving way. And it's because he had just immense trust of everything that you did for him.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was his confidant. We got along very well.
Very similar personalities, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my crazy came in.
No. No.
But when I started, so I came in 2001
to help me.
to help you. I was Cindy's assistant for the bulk of my early career. And I think, day one for me was learning accounting, making phone calls, which I hated, and that did not last long. But I think the thing I loved that you taught me was, one, I did payroll for a long time. I don't love payroll.
We stuffed checks.
We stuffed checks. We would. The thing with payroll was, it was not a 9-to-5 job. It was we do the payroll, we run the checks, and then at night, Cindy and I would divide up who took the checks home and had to lick every envelope, We had the little licky thing.
The little liquor, yep.
We called it the liquor thing. It was like a
Oh.
little porcelain square dish with a roller in it, and you would use it to lick the envelopes. And so you'd sit in front of the TV and
Yep.
stuff envelopes every Wednesday.
Yep. John and Eric knew Tuesday night and Wednesday I was doing payroll.
Yeah. It's a nighttime job.
was,
It really
yep.
is. And it still is to this day. I
Mhm.
mean, you and Elizabeth both work late
Yep.
nights on those nights. But yeah, doing payroll with you, I definitely remember doing that. I liked it in the beginning because it was one of my first office jobs. I found pretty quickly I stopped liking it after a while. I don't know
Yeah.
how you did it for so long. It's tough.
It's detailed, yeah.
It's very detailed. Yeah, you have to be somebody who really likes concise and detailed numbers, but you also have to be able to put up with a lot of bad behavior.
Oh, yeah.
The time cards not being filled out properly.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
back then they were all hard time cards that
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
turned in.
Yeah.
But then the other thing you taught me that I loved was the checkbook.
Yes.
I loved
And
the
that's one
checkbook.
of my favorite things still.
Still to this
today.
day.
Checkbook and payroll.
Checkbook's great. So we have, you know, what we have in the bank. And, you know, for those of you who are good citizens and actually do your balance your checkbook properly, you know, Fireline had to do that. So we had a running spreadsheet and we had what was in the bank and we had what was in the system and we had to make sure, and then we had to keep track of it all in a spreadsheet and make sure that it all added up and matched. And
To the penny.
to the penny. If you were a John Waters senior employee, you do things to the penny.
Yes.
He taught you to the penny.
Yep. To the penny.
And you made me look for those pennies
Yep.
at times. We would both be
Yep,
hunting
we
for
did.
them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we would.
And I'll never forget my grandfather. He did a couple of times when he was getting older. He was in his 80s, and he was still like looking at the checkbook and trying to reconcile the checkbook for the leasing company and the real estate company. And he would be out a penny, and I mean, it would just tear him up to be able to find this penny. And it's because he was doing it all on a calculator and in pencil. And I didn't have the heart to tell him towards the end that I was doing it on spreadsheets. And
Yeah,
I could find the
he's-
answer a lot faster. But
Yeah, he was detailed, that's for sure. And he made us use a pencil till it was like down to the stub. When
Yeah.
you couldn't write with it anymore.
yeah,
And paper clips, we recycled every paper clip that came in, every rubber band, every
that was a big
so,
thing.
Yep. And you didn't buy notepads, you used scrap paper.
Yes. Oh, I remember the scrap paper. There's so much scrap paper.
Mhm.
And I mean, he was a child of the Depression, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. You know, you save those pennies.
Yeah.
Um,
My father did too.
yeah. And you were,
Yeah.
I mean, you were great because you were detailed like that. And so the checkbook was always
Yeah.
really in a good place. Yeah, I loved doing the
Yeah.
checkbook with you.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was like kind of a puzzle that we had to figure
it
out
was.
every month.
Yep. Yeah.
I have very fond memories
It's,
of that.
yes, it's that was a lot of fun.
So moving forward, I'll scooch us ahead. You know, time passes. I was your assistant for a little bit, mostly working. And then, you know, we get to kind of a darker time in Fireline when
Yeah.
in 2008 is when my grandfather passed. And
Right.
that was not wholly unexpected. I mean, he was 90.
Yeah, he was.
But then how did things go down? Like, I know my side of the story when things started going down with my dad, but like for you, what was that like?
Yeah, I noticed he would start forgetting things, and he depended more on me. And I guess I should have. I was still shocked though when it happened. I mean, I was devastated. The last time I saw him was weird. It was right before Thanksgiving, and like day before Thanksgiving, or 2 days before, because I was off the day before. And he was having. I could tell what kind of day he was going to have by how I heard him walking down the hall. And he had that driver, and he hated it. He hated that. And when the driver would pick him up, I never walked him out. Because I knew he hated that. He just wanted to walk out the door. Well, that day he was having trouble even getting his sweater on. And I helped him put his sweater on. And he looked at me and he said, "Thank you for everything." And that was the last words he said to me.
Mm.
And I guess I put it out of my head. I thought, it's not time yet. And I followed him out, and I watched him leave that day. And it was weird. And that's the last time that I saw him walk out of here. And that's still, sometimes Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
I think of him,
Yeah.
you know. And because we were very close.
Yeah. You were very close for 30 years.
31 years
Yeah.
I worked with him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hard time for
that-
sure.
that was
and you
really-
came to the hospital too.
Yes,
So when
saw
Dad
him
was
at the
dying, he was
hospital.
in the hospital for about a week, and Cindy and Norm and Phil came
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I know that meant a lot to him that you guys came.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was sad.
It meant a lot to us. He meant a lot to us. He did.
I mean, you guys had, talking about your relationship with him, I mean, beyond just working together, you went through all sorts of stuff together. Like, you went through major company changes. When we implemented SI, you guys implemented the SI system together. So pre-PZ.
Yeah.
You know, you guys implemented that, Anita, which we all called Anita, but it sounded funny when we called it that to other people.
Yeah.
But you guys went through all that together. You went through, oh gosh, tell us about the consultant guy that came in.
Oh, yeah. John Kutch. I have a little award thing in my office that I kept from that. He was a consultant. He was what was the name of it? American Management Company. I still remember that. I remember writing them darn checks to him.
You can tell how Cindy feels about this guy already.
And, he came in for weeks and he was, going around the office and telling, what we should do better. And he called your dad and I janitors. Well, that didn't sit well with me.
Why did he call you janitors?
He said because we cleaned up everyone else's mess. Which, looking back, we did.
You were like, we did.
We did. But the janitor was kind of uncalled for.
Well, it was an unnecessary term to give someone a label.
Yeah, it was. It really, that ticked me off. And I actually was thinking about looking for another job. So
you almost quit.
I did. I almost quit. And I was determined. I thought I'm going to find another job. There's no guy from the outside going to come in and call me a janitor. So anyway, your father noticed me. I didn't stay as late, and I was like, I was kind of standoffish. And he said, "What is wrong with you?" And he dragged me in his office. He said, "Sit down and you tell me what's going on." Mm-hmm. Well, I told him that John Kutch screwed everything up, except I didn't use quite that language, which is not me. And his mouth dropped to the floor, and he got up and he hugged me and he said, "Don't you ever keep something like that from me again." He said, he said, "Thank God you finally told me off. After all these years, you told me off." And so then it kind of became a joke after that.
Well, then it actually literally said on your door, there was a gold plate on your door and it said Cindy Rueppel, and underneath it said in quotations, the janitor.
Yeah, the janitor.
Yeah.
And then your mom made me in ceramics a cup, and it has the best darn janitor, and it had a broom on it.
Yep.
And inside she put a necklace, her Christmas necklace that she made with all the art.
Yeah. The ornaments.
The cut glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I wear that every Christmas. But he had that in the bottom.
That was your janitor gift.
That was my janitor gift.
That was your janitor gift. And then the consultant was gone not long after that.
Oh, he was gone. And that was the thing. They were coming in. That was in 97, I believe. And they came in all the time. And they would come into his office. And then all of a sudden I'd see him escorting them to the door. And then he'd come back. He said, "I got rid of that one."
Wow.
There's
a lot of consultants going on back then.
It was. That was the thing back then.
And then I guess, you move forward. I mean, I would say Dad dying you guys were in this amazing relationship, and then him passing was so emotionally difficult, not just for family members, but for the family at Fireline.
Right.
And you were probably the closest to him at Fireline. There was no doubt. I mean, you really were his work wife.
Yes.
And so the mourning process was tough.
Yeah, it was.
And then you had to put up with.
Well, it's extra tough for you too.
Well, and I was sad and that sort of thing, but I was also a very, very different personality type from my father, where he is like you and very kind and patient and maybe we'll clean up some people's messes.
Yeah, we did.
I came in a little more guns blazing, okay, we're going to make this change and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And all this hyper energy and, doughy-eyed 20-something behavior, where I was going to change the world kind of thing. And you had all this experience and knowledge. And I have to give you so much credit because you were immensely patient with me. And looking back, I would have smacked me up the head sometimes. But you were always somebody I knew
felt
I could
it
trust.
like it once in a while. But I bit my tongue.
Yes. There was times when I felt like I could see poor Cindy getting really frustrated with me. And if you're frustrating Cindy, you're doing something wrong. So the most kind lady ever. But Mama Fireline, if you will. But, what were those kind of the changes that we're going through? And the big change was, learning a new system. I think that was really hard.
Yes.
Going from SI systems to PZ, that was because you were the guru of Anita.
Anita, I could do anything in Anita. But when we went to PZ, my parents were ill, and I was helping to take care of my parents. So I really didn't learn PZ like I did Anita. And but that's okay. I mean,
Well, that was good, actually. I think in some ways,
I
because it
concentrated
meant-
on payroll.
Yeah, you could focus on what you were good at, and you didn't
Yeah.
have people coming to you for all these
Right.
distractions, right?
Yeah.
You could do what you did well,
Right.
and but I knew that was hard for you. I
Mhm.
mean,
That
tough.
was because I went from knowing everything about the system to just a very little part.
Yeah, but then you've kind of honed your and then the best part was around that time. A little before that is when Elizabeth Zeldon came in.
Yes.
And the two of you
Elizabeth
worked so
was a
beautifully together.
lifesaver. Yep. Yes, we do. We do.
There was somebody predating Elizabeth, and we won't talk about that person on
Oh,
this podcast,
gosh,
but
no.
it was a very interesting time in Fireline's
That was
history of
one person I wanted to fire myself.
wow, you know you're ticking. We had an HR person that was, we'll just say she was a little on the she was a little extra,
Very.
and Cindy definitely didn't care for her, and that was for good reasons. And so bringing in Elizabeth was a very nice
Yes.
change. Very similar personalities.
Yes. Yes.
You guys work really nice together.
We do.
very
We work
detailed.
well together, and she's very detailed and just what we need.
You guys have this little, even to this day, like those Wednesday powwows on payroll and
Mhm.
everything. So that was good because it was hard because I knew I felt like I kind of didn't bring the values that my dad brought in the friendship with you. It was a different experience because you remember when I was born.
Oh yeah.
It's a little different dynamic,
Yeah.
right?
Your mom was pregnant at my wedding, so
Yeah.
I was.
It was. You've known me all 41 years.
Yes. Yes.
We're just gonna leave it at 41.
Yes.
We're just gonna stay there. But yeah, I think it's crazy because you knew me that long, and we
Yeah.
just had a different relationship. So Elizabeth coming in was great because I
Right.
think she helped kind of, and Linda was
Oh, yeah,
amazing as
Linda
well.
and
So
I-
you and Linda were so close
Linda and
as
I
well.
were very close.
And it was that little
I
back
miss her.
hallway we had. It was me at the end, and Cindy, Linda, and Elizabeth, and the three of them. I would see them like get together for lunch.
Yes.
We'd have that nice, quiet, calm lunch, and then my crazy, frantic self was running around like a crazy chicken with my head off. But you guys had a
Yeah.
great team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a good time in that old building.
I know you were sad to
know.
move out of
Oh,
the big building.
That was
the old
tough
building.
leaving that dinky office for that. I have a beautiful office now, but that was tough.
Yeah,
That was
You-
tough
I finally
walking
gave you
out
a
of here.
window. I gave you a
I
window
know.
though.
I got my window.
That's how I bribed you out of that
Yes.
office. I'm like, Cindy, we're gonna have to demolish this thing, but I will give you a window.
Yes.
I can get you sunlight.
I love my new office, but it was tough leaving the old one. I
Mhm.
remember I walked out of here and I turned the lights off, and tears rolled down my cheeks as I left.
Yeah, it was a hard time.
Yeah.
It was an emotional time.
It
leaving the building
was.
because it felt like the true leaving behind of the old fire line. And-
Yes.
And now new fire lines here, and it was
Yes.
it became very in your face, the new
Yes.
fire line versus the old fire
It-
line.
Yeah, definitely.
We no longer have the 1970s wood paneling on the wall.
No.
The shag carpet, the really crappy lighting, the constant leaks in the roof.
Mhm.
But there was a hominess to it that we
It
did
was.
love.
It was home. I mean, I spent many an hour in that little dinky office.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm
Yep.
glad that you've still been part of this fire
Yep.
line. Now you're going to be moving on eventually in a couple of years. You're starting to talk to me about retirement, and
Yep.
it's coming down the pike. What are you
Yep.
going to spend your time doing in retirement?
Well, we're going to move to be closer to Eric and his wife, and I have 3 grandchildren.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about that. You have one son,
One son, yep.
and he's
He works for the government.
yep. You don't know what he does.
I don't know what he
we
does.
Still don't know.
Nope. Daughter-in-law, and I have a granddaughter and 2 grandsons. They're the light of my life. I have so much fun with them.
Really are. I mean, if anyone loves their grandchildren, I don't think anyone can love their grandchildren
Yeah.
more than Cindy does.
Yes, they're very special. And I plan on putting my husband first because he always played second fiddle, we said, the fire line. And a lot of times he will sarcastically call me Miss Fireline. He'll say, okay, go ahead, Miss Fireline.
I feel like
You
my
know?
mom said the same thing about that to my dad. Fireline was the mistress,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure my husband feels that way sometimes
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll put him first. We're going to go to, we have a small house in North Carolina. We plan on spending more time there. And I just want to do things with the family and the grandkids. Be a grandma taxi.
Yeah. That's nice.
I mean, I was even thinking of volunteering maybe at an animal shelter or,
Yeah,
because
love
I love
animals.
animals, or the grandkids' school.
How many animals do you have right now?
I have 2 cats and a dog.
But you had how many at one point? You had a lot.
One time when my son moved in, when they sold their house, we had a dog, and 5 cats.
Yeah, that's a lot of cats.
Their dog and 5 cats.
That's a lot of litter boxes.
It was.
I love me some cats,
John.
but that's a lot.
John was good. He every
And-
morning and night.
What about don't you have an iguana?
Oh yeah, and Buddy. Yeah, we have a
How long has that iguana been in that basement?
23 years.
That iguana he's got like an entire, half the basement is
Yeah,
iguana tank.
he's got a big iguana tank down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cindy, you do love animals. I
Yes,
think
I
I could
do.
see you at an animal shelter
Yes.
for sure.
Except I'd want to bring them all home and
Yeah,
probably be
that's-
devastated if one was abused.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
but I may do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I like to read and cook, and
You're gonna have a quiet.
I want a relaxing
Yeah, you want
retirement.
quiet. No stressful.
Yes.
No crazy Anna running in and telling you she needs a report right away.
Except with the grandkids.
Well, they're gonna be crazy. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
They'll keep it crazy.
the one question I think everybody likes to be, or we like to ask everybody on this podcast is, if Cindy of today went in and talked to Cindy of 1978, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself on that first day of Fireline?
Embrace technology. Don't fight it.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, because you've
Yeah.
seen some serious technology
Yes.
changes over the years we talked
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Especially with all the office products and Excel and, we did everything by hand. And Anita, I was the expert at Anita, but it didn't include, it didn't have spreadsheets and all that. So I was behind on that from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I
But-
feel like I've never caught up with that. And now technology changes. Seems like every week we get with Teams and this and that. And it's like, sometimes it's just overwhelming. I'm like, give me my, we're
Notepad.
the work would come in, we would do it, we would file it. And in 7 years, we throw it away. And that's it.
Yeah.
I
I know the pace of things is
It's
astronomical compared to what, and the change was slower, I think, for a while. And then the past, I'd say 10 years, pretty much from when we got smartphones,
Yeah, yes.
the pace has been frantic. Because I like to tell people when I first started working for the company with you and we were doing payroll, even when I took over the company in 2010, if you wanted the whole company to know something, you had to staple it to the back of
Yes,
you
which
had
we
to-
did.
to the back of the paycheck. And that's
Yeah.
how you got messages out. The text
Yeah.
didn't have email
Right.
or text messaging. And so that changed so dramatically communication rates. But yeah, you've seen it all.
Yes.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough piece of advice.
It is tough.
Yeah.
It is tough.
Well, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, no problem. I enjoyed it.
Any kind of other words of wisdom you want to share with the Fireline family?
It's been a great run.
It's not over yet.
45 years, but it's getting to the end. So
Yeah. You're doing that reflecting thing.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to, Fireline's been a very important part of my life since I was 17. I was 17 when I started here.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I've met a lot of friends. I'm still friends with some of the retirees. And matter of fact, Phil's coming in today.
Oh, great.
He's going to come in today. And so it's
been a good journey.
it has.
It's not over just yet. But
No.
we got a little more time.
Still have a little more time.
But you're thinking about
I
it.
hope. Yep. But it's, yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all
John's
the
like,
fun
you've got to,
things. Yeah.
you've got to think about it.
That'll be good.
He said, I'm going to drag you out of there.
Yeah. I mean, John, bless John. Thanks, John. I know you put up with a
Yeah.
lot. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for coming on today.
No problem.
Thanks for being a part of it. And thank you to everybody. I think it is my job. It's my job. I'm looking at Kelly here because he's my, I'm going to say, follow us on Instagram at fire_away podcast. Did I get that right? Yeah. And because we want to do more of these. So if you're interested in being a part of this podcast, and it's going to be really hard to follow Cindy. So I think this is going to be a popular one. Everybody loves Miss Cindy. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And give us a listen and encourage some of your coworkers to listen as well. And we'll hear from you next time. Thank you.